Ladies and gentlemen, good day everyone, and a warm welcome to the anxiety webinar today. It's great to see so many names and faces, and we're glad that you can join us. My name is Lizette de Villiers. You'll see on the screen it says Shadowmatch Office. That's not my real name. My name is Lizette de Villiers, and I'll be the host this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, currently you are on forced mute. It will remain like that for the duration of the webinar. It's really just to give the presenter the opportunity to present without any interruptions. If you do have questions, you're welcome to post your questions in the chat. I'll give some more information regarding the questions shortly. You would have noticed that we are recording the webinar. We are going to record up to the point where you will have the opportunity to ask questions. So how it will work is you will stay on forced mute, and then at the end of the webinar, I will enable the setting for you to unmute yourself and then ask the presenter questions live. That part we won't record so that you don't feel exposed on a recording that might be distributed or that might be posted on YouTube in the future. With regards to the questions, you're welcome to post a question just in the general chat to everyone. I'll handle those questions. And then I would like to introduce Suzanne Conradi. If you can maybe just wave, Suzanne. I know there are many faces on some of the screens, as well as Ruzanne Marais, if she can wave. They are both part of the Shadowmatch team, ladies and gentlemen. Suzanne is the general manager at Shadowmatch, and Ruzanne is one of our senior consultants. They are both well qualified. They understand the model that Peter will be presenting, and they will also be able to answer your questions. So if you want to ask a question directly to Suzanne or Ruzanne, you can merely just click on their face on the screen. There's a little pop-up and you can click on chat and you can post the question to them. They will also collate questions and then present the questions that they've collated to Peter at the end of the webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, just shortly the agenda for today from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. South African Standard Time. I know it's a different time in the States and from other parts in the world where you are joining from. We'll be doing the webinar. Peter de Villiers is the presenter and I'll introduce him shortly. And then after the hour, we'll obviously allow time for questions. You don't have to stay, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome to run. And then after we've handled all the questions, it will probably be at 4:30 South African Standard Time. Peter will then spend half an hour to explain the model that he's going to use in the anxiety webinar today. So those that are psychologists or counselors or coaches or just working with people and from time working with people that experience anxiety, you're welcome to stay on. We are also going to record that part of the webinar, and the recording for both these webinars will be made available upon request. I think that's just an important comment. We're not just going to send the recording to everyone. So if you do want the recording, you are welcome to send an email to info@shadowmatch.com. I'll also post the email address in the chat, and we will then send the recording upon request. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that's all in terms of the administrative part. Let me introduce the presenter. Our presenter is Peter de Villiers. Peter is the author and the functional developer of Shadowmatch. He studied at the University of Pretoria and he worked as a minister of religion in the Dutch Reformed Church for 12 years. Since his student years, Peter had an interest and passion in specialized support to people, especially young adults who seek to craft a meaningful life. Peter did extensive research to understand why people fail and why people find themselves in a troubled situation. This research led to Peter leaving the ministry and dedicating himself to understanding the patterns in people's behavior. This research then led to the development of Shadowmatch. Now, Shadowmatch, ladies and gentlemen, is a system used worldwide by many individuals, businesses, coaches, as well as other institutions to help people understand their habits. For more information, you're welcome to visit www.shadowmatch.com. Peter authored several books. He lectured to MBA students to understand the strategic design of a business in line with future trends. He's a keynote speaker, and he does a lot of training and executive coaching to help people understand themselves and craft a meaningful and successful life. Ladies and gentlemen, I think you'll agree with me, no better person to present today's webinar on how to deal with as well as beat anxiety. Peter, thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you, Lizette. Welcome, everybody, and thank you for spending the time with us and spending this hour to better understand anxiety. Let me just give you a 1-minute introduction to my approach. This is a bit technical, it's a bit academic maybe, but I have found that when people understand the things that they experience, it's much easier for them to deal with it. Not that understanding is always necessary. I'm a bit critical of the fact that we need to understand everything to make it happen and to make it necessary, and that it's necessary to change our lives. But it helps a bit. Understanding, I don't think it's key, but it helps. So what I'm going to do is I will share my screen in a few moments. I just want to tell you some interesting statistical facts or statistical information. I'm part of global research projects and groups, and I have friends in places and all over. And from time to time, I get information that is quite interesting, and then I follow up with my friends in key places, and then I ask them for the data that they have and the research that they are doing. And because we're a community, I get access to some of the data. There's something we call an anxiety index, or a population or a collective anxiety index. You can get it in a school, or you can measure it. There are methods to measure it in a country, globally, blah, blah, blah. So that anxiety index is measured by the number of prescriptions that doctors give out for medicine prescribed for anxiety or for depression or whatever it might be, in this case, anxiety specifically. And then that has been calculated as a factor of the population of the town or the school or whatever it might be. So we don't have anxiety indexes for 100 years back because we didn't have medicine then. But it's anticipated that, well, globally, the anxiety index prior to the COVID pandemic was about 2 on a scale of 1 to 7. So 1 is very low. There's almost an absence of anxiety cases in the country. And 7, then it's very high. It is extremely high. It's as high as it can get. So prior to the COVID virus and the pandemic, South Africa was about 2.2. The global index was around 2 out of 7. So that's quite low, South Africa, but higher. And then since the pandemic started to move into our lives and our businesses, this anxiety level started to pick up. Currently, it went up to 3.7 for South Africa on a scale of 7, and 3.5 globally, 3.6, 3.7 also in some European countries, in some states in America, it was up to 3.9. But then what happened in South Africa, we had public violence and riots, and suddenly it shot up to 4.7. And then to 5.7 later on. At the highest that has been anticipated as an index is 6, an anxiety index of 6. And that was in Europe just post the Second World War. It's projected that the anxiety level then went up to 6. Since we are out of the riots, this level came down. It looks like we are sitting on about 5 on a scale of 1 to 7. Globally, it came down to about 3.1. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and then from there on, we will talk about anxiety and what it means, how to understand it, and how to best work with it. So let's start. The first thing, ladies and gentlemen, is I think we all understand the fact that there's a need for people to live a better life, and I think it's very possible. So if we look at anxiety, how it works, we start by saying it starts as it is actually the result of a process of stacking. This is a word that I use as one of the reasons why people run into difficulties in their lives. It's been used for other psychological constructs as well, but it's easier. In general terms, it's been used to describe how the process of problems building up against somebody. Stacking, therefore, should be seen as the process of accumulative troubles building up against an individual. Have a look at the pictures that I will be using. The individual here has got 2 problems stacked against him: relationship problems and work problems, but I use this in a very symbolic manner. See that the individual is much larger than the two problems that he faces. And that's just a way for me to show you that he's stronger. He's in a much more powerful position than the problems that is stacking up against him. But what then happens, ladies and gentlemen, as life progresses and as things happen, more problems stack up against the individual. And as the individual run into other areas of his life, into other areas of exposure to work and planning and finance and then the problems stack up increasingly against the individual. Now, when fear, nervousness, and stress take control of the behavior of a person, one of the symptoms, carefully, ladies and gentlemen, listen to my word selection, one of the symptoms is that anxiety can manifest. We'll discuss that. I'll describe what it is. So as life carries on and we suddenly run into COVID and into lockdown and into looting and unrest and political changes, maybe in some countries, look what is happening currently in Afghanistan and in the neighboring countries there, these things can stack up against us as individuals, but also as a group. At a point, the troubles become bigger than the person. This is when stress can get the upper hand on the individual and the risk of anxiety comes into play. Let me just explain. Stress is the mechanism we use to react against a threat, an enemy, a hostile situation that builds up against us. It creates a reaction of stress. When that stress builds up further and I am outpowered by it, in other words, my ability to deal with the stress is outpowered, what then happens is I react with additional alarms in my behavior and in my psychology, of which anxiety is one, which we will discuss in detail this afternoon. Now, the obvious question, ladies and gentlemen, is that, but we can unstack these problems. It's easy, just get rid of them. Let's understand the problem and then we unstack them. We sort the finance problems out. We sort the life admin out and family relationships work. Let's sort these problems out. Yeah, some of them we can unstack. Most troubles are stubborn. They don't want to be unstacked, and it's not possible for the individual to unstack them. This is exactly the point and the trouble that we run into. Some of the troubles and the problems that stacked up against an individual cannot be unstacked. We cannot let the virus go away. We cannot change somebody's health that is compromised in a moment of magic. Sometimes people have health problems that becomes a serious challenge in their lives, and the medical profession just, they run out of ideas and plans and medicine to help the individual. We can't unstack some of these troubles. COVID, lockdown, looting, unrest, finance. Finance maybe, but not that easy. It becomes an increasingly more problematic stacking part in our lives is financial problems. So what must I do? Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the key points in the model that I'm building over many years and during thousands of coaching and counseling and sessions with individuals. I must, if this is me, I must become stronger than the troubles I face. Or I must be smart enough to get away from them. I must either be able to delete them out of my life, get rid of them, unstack them in a way that they are not problems that haunt my life and that is a threat to me and that creates fear in my understanding of myself and my world. But I must, in a position, become more powerful than the stacked problems in my life or the troubles that I have. The question is how. I will show you. It is a process. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is probably one of the critical, maybe, challenges of the model that I'm building and that I'm finished building. I will show you at the end when we do the training part, is that my experience is it's not a decision that I can take to be stronger than the problems that I have. It's also not a discussion with somebody. We can talk about these things for months. Something must happen. They must either go away or something in me must happen. So let's accept some of them won't go away. So what is the alternative? There are only two parties to this event, to this anxiety event. I must change so that my position of power is superior and more capable than the problems that stacked up against me, so that I deal with them without fear of failure, fear of losing the engagement, fear of what could happen to me, and fear and uncertainty, because that leads to stress, that then can lead to one of the symptoms being anxiety. So now, ladies and gentlemen, the last point that we need to make is when I said to you, this is not a discussion. I have spoken to people for many hours, and I'm relatively well trained in this. You can't talk people out of it. You can't talk them into another position. This is a process, and it's a process of hard work. And this is the thing that we don't want to hear when we deal with anxiety and all the other symptoms of escalated stress in our lives. We don't want to hear, because we live in a postmodern world where everything happens immediately. There's a quick solution to everything. We don't send letters, we email, and it's immediately there. It doesn't work like this with anxiety and with the stacking of problems. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is the 5 phases or the 5 levels of anxiety that I have identified, and I have described them. They increase in the size of the stacking against the individual. Light anxiety on the left, we'll deal with them in detail. I'm okay, don't worry, I'm fine, don't worry, I'm okay. Then constant anxiety, I'm okay most of the time. Sometimes I'm not okay, but most of the time I'm okay. And then bordered anxiety, this is I'm not okay most of the time. Sometimes I'm okay during the morning when the sun shines and I'm at work, I'm okay, but in the evenings when I'm alone and I've got to lock my door, I'm not okay. So I'm okay for parts of the day, but parts of the day I'm not okay. And then debilitating anxiety is where I'm not okay. That's it, I'm not okay. This thing is getting the upper hand on me. And then dangerous anxiety is when the individual says, I'm seriously not okay. I am in serious trouble and I really battle to live a meaningful life. Let's have a look at them independently and individually. Light anxiety is when somebody experiences moments of stress and discomfort. There are moments during the day. A sense of uncertainty. These people report a sense of uncertainty about their position, their future, what they should do. They feel an urge to do something, but they don't know what, and they don't know where to take that something that they need to do. Once a day, sometimes even 2 or 3 short sessions of discomfort, uncertainty, restlessness, and moments of stress. What they report is, I get these moments where I just for a minute, 2 or 3 minutes, feel that my throat, I'm uncomfortable to breathe. It feels as if my throat is tight. It feels for a moment, if I think about something, it feels for a moment that I'm fearful of this, but it then goes away. They can disengage the thought process, and they are in control of whatever they feel. And sometimes these things just come out of thin air and out of the darkness. And the person would say, I don't know what the reason is. And if you ask them, but what are you fearful of? They say, I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's just this feeling that get hold of me, that I'm tight, and I feel it physically in most instances. What we do, ladies and gentlemen, is there's nothing we do. Lots of people experience this. This is light anxiety. These people are completely functional. They are fine. They carry on with their lives. So if they experience this, the advice is to take a brisk walk, get the heartbeat up, oxygen in the blood, more oxygen to the brain, just a basic exercise of our physical bodies. Listen to light music from the 60s, ladies and gentlemen. Music from the 60s is absolutely magic. The music in the 60s was probably, and the theories are building up, that the music from the 50s and the 60s was as a result of the anxiety and depression from the Second World War to get people out of it. And it's magic. It is, listen to it and dance. If somebody sees you, even more better, even better. Then work on something, get yourself busy with something, wash a car, bake a cake, exercise. What we can do, ladies and gentlemen, that is magic, is to bond with people close to you. Good relationships with reliable and trusted friends and family and loved ones is a very, very good mechanism to deal with light anxiety. What the magic is, ladies and gentlemen, is to do something that makes you laugh. Watch Tom and Jerry, whatever. Do something. Read some stupid article in a magazine or on Facebook or on whatever it might be. But laughter is one of the mechanisms used by the brain to create the substances that it needs to function properly and in a good, positive spirit. Try not to talk about the things that make you feel stressed. Ladies and gentlemen, this sentence might not sit well with a lot of people, but do your best not to talk about the things that make you feel stressed. It aggravates it. I'll come back to it. The second one, ladies and gentlemen, is where we have a constant anxiety. I'm okay most of the time. Longer time frames of stress, fear, and discomfort now starts to manifest. These people, they report more regular than once a day. More intense and for longer period, instead of 2-3 minutes of this feeling of stress and anxiousness, I must do something, and urgency to act on something, become longer periods of 20 minutes, 15-20 minutes, but they can control, and they're still in control of it. They are aware of stress and fear, even if they are busy with positive activities. It's as if they report, ladies and gentlemen, that this discomfort and uncertainty about their own position and their own lives and what will happen in the future, they are aware of it, even if they are busy with positive activities in their lives. The one critical indicator is a sense of a tight neck, upper shoulders, throat, and an experience of shortness of breath. They report that they 2, 3, 4 times a day experience a tight chest, as if somebody is standing on their chest, and they run into short breathing. They battle to get to the full lung capacity of their breathing. And they've got an uncertainty about the immediate and the long-term future. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if we look at what are the things we can do, the practical things, put a positive plan of action in place and do it. Do something. Do anything that'll change your life. Put a plan in place. Say, I plan to do this, a future plan, a plan for tomorrow and next week and next month. Anything that you can think of that you need to deal with, put the plan in writing, write it down. Do something that engages the activity, the problems positively with an aim to solve and to work towards a solution. Share it with somebody you respect, somebody that is in your list of respected people, somebody that cares, somebody that would take a positive interest in your life. And then take action. You must do things, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing will happen if nothing happens. If we don't act, we will go nowhere with our lives. And then make your plan real. If you have a plan to engage something in a positive way, do it. The actions that you take are the changing agents. Now, ladies and gentlemen, now we go to bordered anxiety. We are now in the middle of these 5 frames. There are some critical indicators now that we must become aware of. Normal activities become stressful tasks. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the most critical indicator. The others are sub-indicators. But what these people report is my normal day-to-day activities become stressful tasks and responsibilities that I'm not looking forward to. Shortness of breath, unable to breathe beyond the full capacity of the lung threshold, capacity threshold, very aware of chest pressure, throat-related discomfort, a tightness in the jaws, throat, and the shoulders. They feel uptight around the neck and shoulders and the throat, and in the jaws and the back of the head, and even down in the back. Some medical conditions of illness can start to manifest, all kinds of pains and aches and headaches, blah blah blah. But on the thin side, it's not that prominent as yet. Then they experience a stretched skin. What a lot of them report, ladies and gentlemen, is that they feel that the skin around their hands and their face is stretched. It's under stress. And what you will also see is what they do is they work their hands, they massage their hands like this, and if they become stressed, they have these hand movements of stretching. And sometimes you can even see it in the way they try to stretch their faces to get rid of that feeling of a stretched skin. Long periods of unrelated fear, stress, and uncertainty. They live in fear, ladies and gentlemen, but they don't know what causes the fear. They can't really pinpoint and identify the reasons for the fear. And they feel a level of uncertainty within them, uncertain about their relationships, about their work, their career, their studies if they are students, their parents, their children if they are adults. A lot of these things sit in an uncertain bucket in their own experience of who and what they are. Then they have constant underlying awareness of stressful stuff. And some of these things, ladies and gentlemen, are not real reasons for stress. These are sometimes things that you and I would say, but that shouldn't stress you. Careful. That's a judgment call that we don't make on other people. They experience this. And when they experience this is real for them. Then their general life routines start to change. This is quite important, ladies and gentlemen. Their general life routines, getting up in the morning, get themselves dressed, have breakfast, go to work, get home in the evening, do this. We all follow patterns of routines. Those routines start to change, and sometimes they're only aware of it if you ask them if they are aware of some of the routines that have changed. Do these 5 things every day. This is straightforward advice, ladies and gentlemen. Do one thing every day that is not part of your normal routine. Do one thing every day that is not part of your normal activities or your normal life process or routines. Go to the gym, go swim, go visit a friend, go see somebody somewhere that you haven't seen for a long time. Wash your own car. Do anything that is not part of your normal day-to-day activities. Creates a lot of energy in the mind. Then micro improve your fitness level every day. This is critical, ladies and gentlemen, and this is something that we do not emphasize enough. To work on your physical health and your fitness level, and to improve it just a little bit every day, it creates important substances and chemicals necessary for the brain to function optimally. Sleep 7.5 hours every night and be asleep before 11 o'clock. I'm not going to explain it, ladies and gentlemen. You can Google it. Why go to bed before 11 o'clock? it's critical. You must try to be asleep before 11 o'clock and sleep for 7.5 hours. That is probably one of the most critical pieces of advice that we can give somebody. That is easy, it's meaningful, it's healthy, and it recovers the bordered anxiety, and we can push it back to constant or to light anxiety in doing that. Have a light, joyful music session of 30 minutes every day. This is magic, ladies and gentlemen. Listen to music that you feel, I want to dance on this music. It creates a lot of energy in the brain that is positive, and that helps the brain to deal with the stress that it has to deal with. Put a positive lifestyle plan together and act. Ladies and gentlemen, a discussion has zero value if we don't act. A plan that we write has got zero value if we don't act. We cannot solve a bubblegum equation, algebra equation by chewing bubblegum, said Baz Luhrmann. You cannot become a marathon athlete by sitting on the side of your bed. You have to act. It's the same with the brain. It's not different. There's no difference. You need to live an active, positive, successful life, and in doing so, build new habits. Do 5 things every day that make you feel good about yourself. This is probably the most critical thing that you can do, ladies and gentlemen. Do 5 things every day that makes you stand back and say, man, I feel good about myself for doing this. Pack your garage, wash the floor, wash the car, bake a cake, do whatever. Phone someone that you haven't seen for a long time, clean your shoes. Do 5 things every day that makes you feel good about yourself. Then, ladies and gentlemen, now you will see something sneaks in. Consider getting yourself a coach. Consider a coach. Life is not easy. Now, ladies and gentlemen, once we have dealt with these 3 first levels or first stages of anxiety, just a few comments to summarize. I'm still in control of actions. These people in this state of anxiousness are still in control of their actions. They are fully in control. I can decide and I can do what I decide to do. So they still control their activities, and to a large extent, the things that they think about, and that dominates their mind processes. I still have authority over my actions. Even on the bordered anxiety, the big one on the right, they still have authority and command over their actions. They can control it. The anxiety still lives within the borders where I can control what I do and when I do things. So I can control what I do and when I do it. But I have these experiences that makes me uncomfortable. It might be tough as we move deeper into this, to the border anxiety, but I can do it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what we now have is we run into the 2 last phases that I have described. And this is in these 2 areas, anxiety can become the problem. It can get the upper hand on you. Anxiety can start to control your actions. I'm mostly not in control of how I experience the world. And in some instances, I'm not in control at all. I experience an inability to control and command my thoughts. What these people say, ladies and gentlemen, and what they experience, and if you listen and you are part of our discussion this afternoon and this webinar, and you have experiences of anxiety, one of the critical things they say is, it is as if the troubles have taken control of my mind. I cannot control my thinking processes any longer. It feels, some of them say, it feels that a superior power is controlling my thought processes and my life from the outside. These are a specific indicator that they report about what they experience. Now let's have a look at some of the most critical indicators. On the debilitating anxiety level, ladies and gentlemen, all the previous symptoms are there. They don't go away. They are there sort of in a permanent way, but they are continuously in the mind and in the behavior patterns of the individuals. Sometimes these experiences are in the background, but they are there. They are very aware of them, consistently aware of them. But now a few specific things, 5 specific things are now real. I've got 4 on the list, this list, 5 on the next one, the 5th one on the next. They experience physical pain, all kinds of stomach, neck and shoulders, chest, muscles, headaches, joints, back pain, all kinds of vague, and there's not really a medical reason for it. There's not something that they could identify, but they will continuously say, I've got this headache, or my shoulder is sore, or I've got stomach cramps, or I've got this. But pain starts to creep into their physical bodies. They have a loss of energy. This is critical. Very low motivation for work and life in general. I just don't have the energy for this or that. Then the thing that they report, ladies and gentlemen, is I want out. They feel an urge, they experience an urge to get out of their job, out of their house and their living space and place. They want to leave this town. They feel trapped. They want to leave the country. They want to live in Australia or in New Zealand or whatever that might be, but they want out. And then they live in a constant failure and fear mode. I have failed. This is one of the critical things, ladies and gentlemen. They have internalized their failures from I have failed my exam into I am a failure. I have failed and I'm a failure, and I constantly fear the things I have to face. But there's a 5th one. Negative talking, trouble focused and trapped in an urge to tell everybody how bad the world is, start to control their discussions, the topics that they speak about, the things that they think about, and the things that they do. They are under control of a negative mindset about a fearful, hostile, and a troubled world that they live in, and they have to find their way. Now, what do we identify on level 5? We'll give advice on these 2 in one. All the previous symptoms, but they don't go away. So everything that we've said up till now are present. Anxiety attacks, these are moments of uncontrollable fear and a feeling of being trapped and an urge to do something. They feel agitated to do something, but they don't know what and where to start. An experience that something stronger than me is destroying now life, not controlling it now, destroying it. 3 specific things are now real, ladies and gentlemen. I can't do it. My energy for life, work, and play is gone. I don't want to do it. My appetite for work, play, and social engagements is gone. I have no motivation to live a positive life and a productive life. This is the critical one. I don't care. I don't care for my health. I don't care for my loved ones. I don't care my job. I don't care my relationships or my house, because I am in this trap of anxiousness, stress, and fear, and this urgency to do something, and I couldn't change my life. Now the person is in trouble, ladies and gentlemen, and we need to help the individual. So if possible, try to see a medical doctor. Obviously, ladies and gentlemen, there are medicine treatments for the brain and it works, but it's a short-term solution. It's not a long-term solution. It's a short-term solution up to the point where we can help the individual to become stronger than the stacking of problems in their lives. Long-term, 3 things. What we must do, ladies and gentlemen, remember that these individuals have a serious loss of energy, and we cannot tell them to live a positive life. You know, this sort of thing fun, but what you must do is live a positive life go to this, go to the circus, enjoy life, play tennis, go to this, go. They can't. They don't have the energy to do it. They cannot do it. So what we do, ladies and gentlemen, we guide them and we coach them to take one micro action every day that will make that day better than the previous day. What we do is we stack their position of power to become stronger than the stacking of the problems against them. And we do it over a period of time. How long is the time? Half the time it took them to get into this condition, you need to get them out. It's a coaching process. Plan the micro action that will make tomorrow better than today, and keep on doing it. Make every day a micro better day than the day before. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you must get a coach. If somebody is in this frame, that somebody must get a coach. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to change your life, remember, whenever you work with the webinars that I present, I work with habits. You must change your habits. You must build habits of a strong individual. The question is how? Continuously do things that give you an experience of success and winning. This is how we build a strong self. This is how we build a strong me, by continuously building an experience of success, progress, winning, and meaning. Exercise, clean up places, make something, grow something, learn something new, go for music lessons, sing in a choir, whatever. Do things that makes you feel good about who you are and what you can do. But then, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of people will say, and it's been said to me thousands of times, but I don't feel like doing it. So what? Your feelings won't change your life. Your actions will. If I decided to go to run 10 kilometers in the evening, and I start winding down and saying, but I don't feel like running and I feel like doing it tomorrow, I'm not going to run. So what will happen? Nothing. I should stop feeling and thinking. Go run, go to the gym, go swim, go wash the car. We must take the activities that we can look back at and say, I have done something today that makes me feel good about myself. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we must prevent this pattern. This is the pattern. I'm stronger than my problems, but they're stacking. What happens is the stacking of problems, I am okay most of the time, immediately declined and reduces my position of power to deal with them. I become weaker because the problems against me stacked stronger up and they become more. If it stack up more, then the individual run the risk of becoming increasingly weaker. I am not okay most of the time. Now I am on the borderline of trouble. The stacking builds up more troubles come into my life. And the inevitable risk that I run is that my position of power becomes compromised even more. And now suddenly I'm completely overpowered and out of my capabilities to deal with it. This pattern we must prevent. As parents and people with children, ladies and gentlemen, you must prevent this from happening to your child. It must not happen. The pattern of a weakening position of personal strength against the stacking of problems is the core issue. This is the issue, ladies and gentlemen. What we must do is we must replace the previous pattern with this one. Life is easy. I'm okay, don't worry. Life has some tough moments, but I'm okay. It's tough, but I'm winning. As they stack up, I become stronger. This is new for me. These are some new problems, but I'm okay with it. I can deal with this. I'm okay with things that have changed. I know exactly what to do. They stack up more. Steep mountains need strong climbing. Okay, so this is a bit tough, but I'll just work harder and I'll get on top of it, and watch me in a week's time, I'm there. If they stack up more, I just become stronger. I have escaped some of my troubles. I've deleted some of them. I ran away from some of them. It's fine. It's fine. As long as the troubles don't overwhelm you. As long as the person is in himself convinced that I'm dealing with this because I'm stronger than the problem, or I'm more clever than the problems, or I'm whatever, I'm just in control of it. The moment we have the previous one, ladies and gentlemen, we run into problems. This is the only lasting answer to the challenge of anxiety and other stress-related symptoms. We must keep the position of personal strength of the individual intact to the point, or to a point where they can deal as the stronger party with the problems that stack up against them, so that they don't run into fear, into failure, which is the big no-no, and then from there on spiral down in a collapse of their personal strength and who and what they are as individuals. The question, ladies and gentlemen, is how? How do we do this? Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, it's a process. It's not a decision. It's not a discussion. It's not a visit to some weekend away. This is a process, and it's a tough process. There's no easy way out of this. It is a tough process. This process, ladies and gentlemen, is that if you want to change your life, you have to change your habits. The habit of living here in the darkness, in distress, in fear, and losing the battles against the stacking of problems against us must stop. There's no other way of dealing with it. The habit of living in the darkness and in a troubled life must stop. The habit of living here in a light of positive activities, freedom, and joy must develop. Remember, my wording is very carefully. It must develop. It must not be decided upon. It must not be discussed. It must not be a weekend away project. It's a lifestyle of habits that must change. The habits of living in problems, talking about problems, rehearsing worst case scenarios, reminding yourself of your failures, keeping traumatic experiences alive and talking about them all the time, associating yourself with a negative, doing things, good things, expecting a negative result must stop. That's it. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. If we don't do it, we are in trouble. What we must do is we must build the habits of living in solutions, practical actions. We must take action against these things. If problems in life stack up against them, face them, deal with them, and deal with them in a positive way. And you will see that they are not as big as they seem to be. Talking about solutions instead of talking about problems, rehearsing best case scenarios instead of rehearsing worst case scenarios. Remind yourself of your successes in life. If you talk to somebody, tell them about the wonderful things that you did in your life. If somebody asks you to talk about your troubles in your history, you must be careful, ladies and gentlemen. You're teaching the brain to live in pain. Don't do it. Keep joyful experiences alive. Associate yourself with a positive. Doing good things, expecting best results. Build your day with micro actions of success, fulfillment, and joy. These habits must develop. And you don't learn habits, ladies and gentlemen, as the popular idea teaches us by doing something 17 times. It's rubbish. You've got to repeat it until it becomes a habit. And for me to repeat it until it becomes a habit might take a year. For the next person, 3 months. For the next person, maybe 3 weeks. We don't have a number, but we must continuously work on the positive actions in life that will build positive habits, because these positive habits are critical for the self to function strong. What you must do, ladies and gentlemen, is you must consider a coach. Life is not easy. Life is a complicated reality where we have to find our way in a very stressful and under conditions that we have never been in before. We never had what we currently have to face. We never had the troubles that we currently must live with. And a coach is the person that would guide and take you through this process. A coach plays a specific role of helping you to discover the optimal lifestyle. But ladies and gentlemen, if you want to make a difference in other people's lives, become a coach. It's one of the wonderful things that you can do for people is to become a coach and help them through the difficult times that they might experience. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to read a book that will change your life, read this book. Unfortunately, I don't pay commission, but I've probably, by influence, sold 1,000 of these books for James Clear. And I've never met him. I don't know who the guy is, but I've read his book. Read it. This is probably one of the top 5 books, and I've read a few. This is probably one of the top 5 books that I've read in my life. Get it and read it. It handles the principle. In 2006, ladies and gentlemen, when I started with the final research to make Shadow Match alive, I worked with habits. Suddenly, there are a few books that was published around habits. It works with the principle that habits define who and what we are. And these habits are learned over a long period of time as a result of repetition of behavior. We don't learn habits. We do not learn to ride a bicycle by sitting on the sofa watching rugby. We learn to ride a bicycle by riding a bicycle. We learn to be successful by being successful. We learn to build a strong self by doing things that are challenging and we feel good about what we have accomplished. It works with the principle of micro habits, micro behaviors that become atomic habits and that build the individual into a strong person that can deal with the challenges of life. It is not a discussion, it's a process. You must buy into the fact that it is a process, ladies and gentlemen. With that, thank you very much. If you have any questions, you can send an email to coaching@shadowmatch.com, our website. If you want to read a bit more, obviously shadowmatch.com is our library where all the information about our product and our service and what we have done on a research level is published, and everything is there, shadowmatch.com. Shadowmatchcoaching.com gives you information about how to become a coach and how to find a coach. And then coaching@shadowmatch.com is an email address that will come to me and my specialized colleagues, and we will deal with the emails as you send them to us. With that, I'm going to stop the screen and go back to Lizette and help handle the questions. Lizette, back to you.
Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you very much for an insightful webinar. I didn't have any questions on my side. Suzanne didn't have any questions. Ruzan, maybe you can just show no questions on your side. So with that, Peter, I'm going to stop the recording and then I'm going to enable the setting for everybody to unmute themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to run. If there are no questions, we will probably just go straight into some of the extra training. You are welcome to stay. If you can't stay, but you would like the recording, please send us an email and we will make the recording then available to you. So let me stop the recording.